Tyler, Jacob, and Mason had been camping together since they were kids, but nothing prepared them for what waited deep in the Pine Ridge Forest. They picked a remote, clearing no nearby campsites, no trails, just miles of untouched woods. The first night was peaceful, a crackling fire, roasting marshmallows, and sharing old memories. But just after midnight, Mason froze and pointed toward the tree line. Someone was standing there. At first the others thought he was joking, yet when they looked, they saw a tall figure just beyond the fire's reach. Completely still, almost blending into the darkness, Tyler called out, assuming it was a hiker. No answer. The figure did not move, did not even shift its weight, just watched. The boys tried to laugh it off and retreated to their tents, but none of them slept. Every few minutes, leaves cracked outside, too slow and deliberate to be an animal. Around 3 a.m., Jacob whispered that someone was right outside his tent. Tyler crawled out with a flashlight, shining it across the clearing. Nothing. But when he spun around toward the trees, the figure was closer, much closer. Its head tilted unnaturally, as if studying him. Tyler yelled, and the three grabbed their packs and fled toward the truck. As they sprinted, the figure began moving fast, silent, gliding through the trees with impossible speed. Jacob tripped, but the others pulled him up. None dared look back. When they reached the truck, Tyler fumbled with the keys. Finally, the engine roared to life, and they sped down the dirt road. Astedrov, Mason one last glass out the window. The figure stood on the edge of the tree line, watching them leave. No expression, no movement, almost like a mannequin. The sheriff later told them nobody lived within 40 miles of that forest, and there were no reports of hikers. Whoever or whatever stood in that tree line had been waiting there long before they arrived. Lena and her boyfriend Mark loved camping on the cliffs overlooking Raven Lake. They'd been there many times. But this time felt different. The wind carried an icy chill, and the forest seemed to quiet. No birds, no rustling, as if the entire landscape held its breath. They set up camp anyway, laughing off the uneasiness. As night fell, they sat around a small shell finding ghost stories. À some point, Mark judged that the spirit VOEC trick toddlers, whisper something and wait for the echo. Lena whispered hellos, stride again. This time, something whispered back faint, stretched, and horribly distorted. Hello, they froze. Mark accused Lena of playing a prank, but she swore she didn't speak. They decided to ignore it and go to sleep. Hours later, Lena woke up to what she thought was Mark's voice, low and muffled outside the tent. Come out! Come see! But Mark was still beside her, asleep. The whisper repeated, louder, clearly imitating Mark's tone, but rung too slow, too deep. Lena shook Mark awake, terrified. They listened as the voice circled the tent. Come out! Come here! Mark zipped the tent open and shined his light outside. No one. No footprints. But the voice whispered again, this time behind them, inside the tent. They bolted. Running barefoot across the cold ground, they didn't stop until they reached their car at the trailhead. As they drove away, the whisper returned from the dark forest, echoing faintly through the night, come back. When they returned weeks later with rangers, their campsite was undisturbed. Except for one thing, the tent was open, with a perfect circle of stones placed neatly around it. The ranger didn't know who or what could have mimicked Mark's voice so perfectly. And Lena never whispered into the woods again. During a weekend camping trip in the Rocky Mountains, Evan and his sister Maya woke up on their second morning to find the forest swallowed in thick fog. They could barely see 5 feet ahead. Their parents were still asleep, so the siblings decided to walk down to the lake. That's when they saw her, a small girl standing near the trees, hair dripping wet, staring at them. Evan waved, Assuming her family was nearby, she didn't react. She slowly lifted her arm and pointed deeper into the forest. Maya tugged Evan's shirt, whispering that they should go back, but the girl kept pointing, trembling as if terrified. When Evan took one step toward her, she vanished completely, swallowed by the fog. They screamed for their parents, who rushed out of the tent. The family searched for the girl, but found nothing. Later that afternoon, the fog lifted, and they decided to leave early. At the ranger station, Evan casually mentioned the girl. The ranger went pale. He took out a folder with missing children's photos. Maya gasped. The girl they saw was on the first page. She had drowned in the lake 3 years earlier. The ranger said dozens of campers reported seeing her during foggy mornings, always pointing toward the forest as if begging for someone to follow. Evan asked what was in the direction she pointed. The ranger hesitated before admitting a cave system where her body had never been recovered. Sometimes the dead don't move on until someone finds them, he said. As the family drove home, Evan kept seeing her face in the fog that gathered along the roadside, eyes pleading for help he was too afraid to give. Aaron loved solo camping. It made him feel alive, just him, the wilderness, and the quiet. But one night in the redwood forest changed everything. He sat up, camped near an old logging road, and fell asleep early. Around midnight, he woke to the unmistakable crunch of footsteps outside his tent. Slow, steady. Circling, he held his breath, assuming it was a deer or a bear. But then the footsteps stopped right beside his head. Something exhaled long, deep, human. Aaron whispered, "Who's there?" but got no answer. He grabbed his flashlight and turned it on, but before unzipping the tent, he noticed something chilling. The shadow outside was human-shaped, but too tall. The figure stood still for several minutes. Finally, it walked away, but the steps didn't fade into the forest. They moved up the logging road, then suddenly stopped. Aaron peeked outside. Nothing, no prints, no person, just silence. The next morning, he packed up quickly. But when he reached his truck, he found something waiting on the hood, a single muddy handprint. Massive, with fingers almost twice the length of his own. He reported it to the rangers, who told him others had experienced strange nighttime visitors in that area, tall figures, silent watchers, impossible shadows. Aaron never camped alone again. On a remote trail in Montana, 4 friends set up camp near a ridgeline. It was perfect, isolated, beautiful, silent. That night, as they sat around the fire, they heard a howl echo through the valley. At first, they assumed it was a wolf. But then it howled again, longer, louder, rising and falling in a disturbing, unnatural way. It didn't sound like any animal they knew. The sound circled them, growing closer. One of them joked nervously about skinwalkers. But no one laughed. Around 2 a.m., the howling stopped. They started to relax until the scream started. A human scream, high-pitched, agonized, desperate. It came from right beyond the tree line. They froze. No one dared move. Suddenly, the scream shifted into a guttural growl, then into a perfect mimic of one of their own voices calling for help. That was enough. They grabbed their gear and bolted. As they ran toward their truck, something massive crashed through the trees behind them. They made it to the rear vehicle, on sped away. In the rearview mirror, they saw a massive silhouette crawl out onto the road toll. Twisted, humanoid, but wrong in every way. They didn't stop until they were miles from the campsite. Rangers later said no animals in that region make sounds like that. And certainly none mimic human voices.